just one look through your social media feed, and you will find people going at each other, debates, opinions, all of that. But I think as Christ followers, we have such an incredible opportunity to share the hope and freedom that is found in Jesus. And so I'm a really big believer in using social media to share our God stories. Like, how is God moving in our life? How are we seeing God do a work within us? So I'll give you an example. About a month ago, we had a house fire. Second floor of our house completely demolished.
Oh, my
We are out of our
word.
house for 6 months to a year. Yeah, exactly. Our life has just been turned upside down. And as I've been sharing the story of what's been happening, and yet in the midst of all this turmoil, the good and how God is providing for our family, and that no matter what we face in life, God is good. I have had multiple people share with me, like, oh my gosh, that's so encouraging to me. Like, they've been encouraged through the story. And so I think as Christ followers, we have such an incredible opportunity to share the stories of God moving in our life, which in turn then allows people to see that, okay, they're not coming off and saying, this is my opinion. They're just sharing from their heart how God is moving, and that's what draws people in. And so I think we can share truth on social media. It's just a lot of it's going to depend on how we word it. But if we share our God stories and what God's doing in our life, that immediately draws people in because they can't argue with that. They can't debate that.
Right. Yeah. When you can say this is my testimony,
Yes.
right? It's less debatable because
Right.
it's what you've experienced
Exactly.
and getting to see the Lord show up. I'm so sorry about that. Like, that is
Yeah, it's
incredibly difficult.
It's
I'm
been
sorry,
crazy, but in the midst of it, I mean, it's amazing to see the work that God is doing.
hey, Romans
And
8:28 is
that's
true,
right.
right?
Exactly.
We know
all
he
things.
can. Yeah,
That's right.
He can work all things for good, and it's just that's a whole other soapbox.
Right.
That's a whole other conversation,
Right.
but it's so true.
Yes.
And at the same time, allowing people in your influence, even
Yep.
on social media, to see the Lord use those things for good
That's
that
right.
they might not see if you hadn't posted something
That's
about
right.
it. How can we as believers then utilize it? I know it's easy to say, tell your God stories and things
Yep.
like that, but give us something tangible. Like, is there like a filter maybe that I need to use in my brain before posting or commenting or something like that? Can you talk to that, believer?
Yeah, I think you have to be strategic. And so when I say that, I think we have to avoid being reactive. I think it can be so easy to get on social media and immediately be reactive. I can't tell you how many times I've typed something out and then I'm like, delete. Don't say that. Don't comment on that. And so I think you have to be strategic. And if there's something that you read that fires you up and you really want to share about it, give yourself some time. Like, don't respond right away. I think often of the story of Esther and how in that story, Esther was so strategic in her communication with the king, which then ultimately allowed her people to be saved. Whereas Haman was very reactive, and because of his reactiveness to everything, he ended up losing his life. And so I think if we are strategic, if we give ourselves time before we comment on something, before we, go about sharing our own post, if we give ourselves time, I think that will then allow us to see, okay, is this something the Lord really wants me to share? Or am I just trying to make a comment to make myself look better? Am I saying this in a way that will close doors to future conversations or open doors to future conversations? I really believe it's all in that time factor, not being reactive.
Yeah, I love that. And, I think we want to have these conversations with our kids.
Yeah.
Not just about social media and
Right.
not just about phones, but obviously in discipleship and
Yeah.
even, hot button topics
Right.
in society and things of that nature. I think as parents, we can help equip, our
Yeah.
kids in this. And so understanding that an influencer is what you said, like everybody has an influence.
Right.
You have a sphere of influence. I think something that just kind of jogged my memory is that time hop. it didn't
Yes.
really exist until maybe
Right.
10 years ago.
Right.
Because there was nothing to time hop back
Right.
to, right? And I think we have all had those posts that were like, oh my gosh, did I really say that for the world to see,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I've made it a practice recently to show my boys, like, look what I said.
Yeah.
You
Right?
know? Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Right.
Like, why would I say that? But at the same time, they're growing up in a world that I never experienced
Right.
until I was an adult.
That's right.
You know, and to have the wherewithal to
Yes.
understand this is appropriate to post and this is not.
Exactly.
But also to say, look, the Lord has brought me through this. Remember this time
Mm-hmm. Yep.
this happened? And those are
Yes.
kind of like altar moments, right? Even
Absolutely.
with social media, it's maybe a stretch, but I can see the Lord has, just really developed me and my
Yes.
understanding of who he is, but also times that we're able to look back and see, like, we didn't know that there was good that
Right.
could come from this.
Right.
Do you think that's appropriate?
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you brought up time hop, because I think that brings up such an incredible point, and that one day our kids are going to see what we've posted
I
on
know.
social media.
Oh my goodness, I know.
Like, they're going to see. And so that's another thought to always have in the back of our minds. Like, are we setting a really great example for our kids in our own social media use? And this is something God works with me all the time. Like, Jen, put your phone down, look at your son, like, talk to him, like, don't. And so, yeah, I think the fact knowing that our kids will one day be able to scroll through and see all of the things that we've posted will be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jen, this was such a great conversation. Thanks so much for being here with us at the D6 conference and talking with me today.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.